There we go. Birds.
Hey, knock it off. Lisa. Brrr. Lisa with the penis.
I cannot bring this product into the US now. I don't have that kind of money. And what that means then is if I can't bring in that product and I run out of what's in my warehouse now, then I no longer have revenue coming into my business. And what that means is I can no longer pay my employees. I can no longer pay my loans, to which my house is leveraged against. And in about 6 months, I could very possibly lose my home.
We'll be right back.
The Daily is supported by BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy.
Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists and can communicate via video, chat, or phone at betterhelp.com/public. Rigorous reporting told through a human lens. Go deeper into the most important stories of the day with The Daily, an audio series from the New York Times. Distribution of The Daily is made possible by American Public Media. APM produces and distributes programs that inform and inspire, entertain, and engage audiences everywhere.
Good afternoon. You are listening to CPR News. I'm Dan Boyce, talking at you from the Southern Colorado Public Media Center in Colorado Springs. Hey, a pretty spring-like start to the week on the Front Range anyway. Boulder, expect highs in the low 70s for the next few days. That's similar on the Front Range. April may rear her inconsistent head by the end of the week, though. Rain or snow likely by Thursday evening into Friday. You're listening to CPR News.
Support comes from Hellman Toyota, a Colorado dealer dedicated to Toyota for over 36 years. Learn more about the Hellman way of doing business at their Delta dealership, Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
She was the first in her family to go to college. Now she's a college president, helping other first-gen students navigate higher ed.
How did I understand things like what a credit hour was? How did you map out your course of study? And how did I pay my bill? I was very fortunate to have mentors in college that really kind of became my academic parents.
Fort Lewis College's first Indigenous president on Colorado Matters at 7 on CPR News and KRCC.
Last week, when President Trump raised tariffs against China to an astonishing 145%, he radically changed the cost of doing business for thousands of American companies. So much so, in fact, that many of those companies may not survive. Today, the story of one of those businesses. Beth, walk us through the logistics of what it started to look like immediately after the tariffs go into place.
Yeah, I currently have 2 to 3 months worth of product in my warehouse. We just finished production of another 2 to 3 months of product. It was supposed to get on a ship 2 days ago.
From China to the U.S.
From China to the U.S. And that was the day that tariffs jumped up to 54%. I have somewhere, give me a second, I want to pull out my numbers so I can and tell you specifically the effect. All right, we're going to do a little math. So for us, that meant instead of the $30,000 tariff we had budgeted for, it now was $85,000.
And how much is the product itself worth?
The product itself is worth $158,000.
So suddenly you're faced with a potential $80,000 tariff on about $158,000 worth of goods. Do I have that right?
Yeah, $85,000 for the 54%. And we don't have that, but we have good margins. We could survive that. And we thought, well, maybe we can do a GoFundMe. It wasn't devastating yet. The next day, when it went up to 104%,
right,
that math is $164,000.
And at that point, the tariffs are going to cost more than the value of the goods, right?
Yep. So that no longer makes business sense for me. I would have to double the price of my products. People are not going to pay double the price of my products, and especially my people. I'm selling my products to new moms and dads. They're buying diapers and formulas and other things that are about to get a whole lot more expensive for them.
Okay, I shudder to ask this. What happens to the tariff cost you would bear once the tariffs go from 104 to 145%?
$229,000.
Just the tariff you would pay on $158,000 worth of product.
Mm-hmm. And we would have to come up with that in the 30 to 40 days it takes for the product to get to the U.S.
Wow.
And I can't get any more loans. I'm fully leveraged. I have my house on the line already. I can't get more loans. Once it hit over $100,000, there was no way we could afford to import our products anymore. And that's when we decided to just abandon it in China until we could figure something out.
Right.
So the products are currently sitting at my factory. They've graciously offered to store them for us at no cost until we can find a new direction.
I mean, at this point, you have this product over there in China. You have, I think you said, several months worth of inventory here in the U.S. So you're kind of in a face-off with the administration. You know, who breaks first, the tariffs or you?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not in a face-off with the administration because I'm not a player in the game. I'm a pawn. There's literally nothing I can do. And I was coming up with strategies, but then any strategy I came up with, I'm afraid to execute it because the policy changes every 24 to 36 hours.
I mean, what would be one strategy that you thought about pursuing?
One strategy, which I have now since learned is illegal. So we were thinking, well, we have some friends, personal friends that live in Australia. We could send it to Australia. We could then have them help coordinate repackaging and then import it from Australia. And with the 90-day pause, we'd only pay 10% tariff.
Mm-hmm.
But that is country of origin fraud. So instead I'm pivoting, I'm shifting gears. I'm going to try to find a way to sell it in another country. There are companies all over the planet. I have gone very deep down the research rabbit holes for my options for producing in the US. We have the requirement to be a clean facility because our products go in babies' mouths.
Right.
So it has to be a sterile facility. It can't just be any old factory. So I could build my own factory. So if we just quickly look at that route, I got pricing for the machines that I need. I need 8 different machines to make my products. The total of that, if I bought the machinery from China, would be just under $400,000.
Wow.
Now, do I have to pay 145% tariff on top of that to get the machinery to be
Right
able to
now,
manufacture?
probably.
So now we're doubling my cost to even set up manufacturing. But let's just say I don't. Then I have to find somebody with the expertise to set up the manufacturing and to run the manufacturing. But because this type of manufacturing doesn't really exist in the U.S. right now we have to talk about the cost of importing the raw material
The silicone,
and the
right?
tariff on top of that. Then we have to talk about the downtime I have. So I told you I got 2 to 3 months worth of product in my warehouse right now. It will take 12 to 18 months if I had the money, if I had the expertise to get this set up. Now that's just one production line. I actually have 8 products, and with one production line, I can do 100 units per day. I sell more than that.
You're saying that it's just totally impractical.
Financially, logistically, and in the end, my product is going to probably have to be 3 times more expensive for the consumer. So I guess I'm better off paying the tariff because that's less.
Huh.
So let's scratch that idea. Nobody can afford to this quickly move to the U.S. with manufacturing. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the raw materials. We don't have the expertise.
It feels like you have learned as a small business person some pretty valuable lessons about the nature of free trade that are very much at odds with what they are proposing here. And I wonder how you would articulate those lessons.
You know, it just none of it makes damn sense. I would love for every country to do what it is best at and be able to thrive on what they're good at. I honestly don't think that we can bring manufacturing to the U.S. and be good at it. We already have hard enough time with the businesses that are currently here finding good workers. Who's going to work at these factories? So this is not short-term pain. This is immediate death to thousands of small businesses.
So let's say that the tariffs remain in place for some time. We don't know that for sure. We're talking to you on Friday. Oh my goodness, are you okay? I'm just looking at the screen and seeing that you're not okay.
I'm not okay. I'm scared for my friends. I'm scared for myself. Like, they don't understand. This is certain death for us. It is certain death for so many of my friends and myself. Not in the literal sense of... Actually, no. I'm not going to say not in the literal sense, because the very first thought that came to me when he announced the 104% tariff was that at least I have life insurance so that there's a way my family can still have a home. And I immediately caught myself, and that's why.
Wait, I can't even contemplate what I think you're just saying.
Yeah. No, it's a dark place.
You're saying that the darkest possible thoughts briefly go through your head when you contemplate what it would mean to lose all this.
Yes, because there's nothing more important to me than my family and my kids and them having a place to live. And even though this was not a mistake I made in my business, so 2 years ago I made some business mistakes.
Are you hungry?
Just because I'm a new business owner and entrepreneurship is hard.
A little bit.
And so a
Can I
couple
cook you
years ago,
something?
I got
you want
into a
I
dark
can't hear you.
place and I sought help.
If you
And I
want to,
got
baby.
help. And since
Wendy's?
I went through that 2 years ago, I made sure that I have
No?
developed a network of
I don't
people
wanna
to
drive
reach out
anymore.
to,
Okay.
people I could talk to, people I can commiserate with, people I can lean on,
See what I can pull out of this
medication
freezer.
that I can take should I need it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid for all of the small business owners that are doing this on their own, who don't have someone to lean on or the coping skills, because this is like the biggest tsunami that just came out of nowhere and crushed our entire country for small business owners. I am okay. But now I'm worried about everybody else who doesn't
Have it.
have that.
The question I was going to ask you before you got justifiably quite emotional was whether or not you have at all prepared yourself, not just financially, but just kind of emotionally, for what it would mean to have this amazing business that you have built from scratch go away, if that does happen.
No. I'm not prepared for that. I'm not even allowing myself to consider that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find a way. Because I refuse to be a victim. Yeah, I refuse to be a victim. I refuse to quit and I refuse to fail. And I'm not going to teach my kids to be a victim or to give up. I'm going to show my kids that you just have to adapt and overcome. There's always a way. There's always a different thing you can do. You're never stuck. It's hard. It sucks. But it's a great lesson for them to learn as well.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think this is going to end?
You cook those. I want to
I
cook
think
this
it's
in a
going to
skillet.
end with
I want to do this in a
us
skillet on the
learning
stove.
new
Right
things
now?
and new ways to do business.
What do you want me to cook?
The chicken? This is
What I'm
fine.
visioning is
This
we're
quick,
going to learn how to
this
do
is easy.
international distribution and more babies
Maybe
around
a
the
couple of
world
those
are gonna get to have our
sausages be
products,
okay.
And then eventually this is going to work out where we're going to have a global company.
Hmm.
It's not going to just be, my American small business. I'm going to have a global brand. So as much as it hurts right now, that's my goal. I'm going to figure this out. And in the end, I will have a global brand. I hope.
You'll have a global brand, but maybe not an American one.
Maybe not.
Beth, I really appreciate you making time for us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
The Daily is supported by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is currently looking for individuals in a variety of career fields who are interested in building a career and joining an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers. And by Sold a Story, investigating how the education system got reading wrong. You'd think schools would use the best science to teach kids to read, but the truth is more complicated. Sold a Story, available in podcast apps.
The Daily is powered by the journalism of the New York Times and is distributed by APM, American Public Media. You can go deeper into the stories you hear on The Daily at nytimes.com/The Daily. That's it for The Daily. I'm Michael Roboto. See you tomorrow.
This is CPR News. 89.5 FM KPRN Grand Junction, 88.3 FM KPRH Montrose, 88.3 FM KPYR Craig, and at CPR.org.
Support comes from Knockbox. In times of uncertainty and change, Knockbox is here to help with a system to track accounts, possessions, social media presence, and more. Learn more at the NOKBox.com.
in a much better position if they leave now. They could potentially come back to the country legally the right way.
The Trump administration urging immigrants to self-deport. It's Monday, April 14th, and this is All Things Considered from CPR News. I'm Dan Boyce. You'll hear conversations from immigrant families on whether to stay or go and what happens with their American-born children. Then, China's leader Xi Jinping embarks on a 5-day, 3-nation tour of Southeast Asia. We'll bring you analysis amid China's trade war with the United States. And later this hour, the sheriff's deputy accused of killing Christian Glass in Clear Creek County in 2022 received his prison sentence today. You'll hear the latest. Those stories following world and national headlines from NPR.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Spear. The man who oversaw the dismantlement of the U.S. Agency for International Development has left the State Department. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports his departure comes just months into the Trump administration.
The State Department says that Pete Morocco was brought to the department to conduct an exhaustive review of every dollar spent on foreign assistance. The statement says Morocco, quote, exposed egregious abuses, adding, quote, we all expect big things are in store for Pete on his next mission. The department did not say what that might be. A Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Brian Schott, says Morocco's tenure brought what he called reckless and unlawful policy to the State Department. He says he wants to hear directly from Secretary of State Marco Rubio about the future of U.S. foreign assistance. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
The man accused of setting fire to the Pennsylvania governor's residence is now in the hospital. Rachel McDevitt of member station WITF reports the suspect is charged with attempted homicide, arson, and terrorism.
Arraignment for 38-year-old Cody Balmer is delayed while he's being treated. Pennsylvania State Police say Balmer was hospitalized due to a medical event not connected to the incident or his arrest. According to a criminal complaint, Balmer hopped the fence surrounding Governor Josh Shapiro's home in the early morning hours on Sunday. He broke in through a window with a hammer and set fire to the dining room using beer bottles filled with gasoline. Balmer turned himself into police. Authorities have not disclosed a motive, but investigators say Balmer told them he would have beaten the governor with the hammer if he'd encountered him during the break-in. For NPR News, I'm Rachel McDevitt in Harrisburg.
Despite a federal judge's order, the Associated Press should be allowed to again cover the White House. The Trump administration today barred a reporter and a photographer from the news service who were preparing to cover an Oval Office news conference featuring Trump, the president of El Salvador. The AP found itself banned from the White House press pool after refusing to adhere to Trump's renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. The FTC's antitrust trial against Meta is underway. NPR's Bobby Allen reports Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and former Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg are set to take the witness stand.
The case is centered on whether Meta's acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp violated competition laws. Years before the purchases, Zuckerberg wrote in an internal email, quote, it is better to buy than compete. FTC says Meta became dominant only after competing unfairly to box out rivals and should be forced to break up Instagram and WhatsApp into separate companies. Meta says regulators approved the takeover of Instagram and WhatsApp more than a decade ago, and that the FTC is punishing Meta for its success. Dozens of witnesses will testify under oath, including Zuckerberg, who is expected to take the stand for 7 hours. Zuckerberg has lobbied the Trump administration for the case to be dropped. It was originally filed during Trump's first term. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
The Dow was up 312 points today. This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Eric and Wendy Schmidt through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org. This is NPR.
This is CPR News. I'm Dan Boyce. The former Clear Creek County deputy who shot and killed Christian Glass has been sentenced to 3 years. That's the max sentence for Andrew Buin, who was convicted of criminally negligent homicide. Today, Judge Catherine Shirotis spoke about the 2022 shooting.
It's really kind of amazing to me how Mr. Buin, who I truly believe is a kind and gentle and loyal person, the shirt off your back kind of guy, as soon as you put a uniform on him and give him a gun, it changes
everything.
The judge added the only good thing to come out of this case is other officers have an example of what not to do in similar situations. Denver youth have an extra incentive to land a summer job. CPR education reporter Jenny Brundeen with more.
Teenagers 14 to 21 years old can apply for a $500 bonus when they've completed 100 hours of work anytime between April and mid-August. They must have a summer job offer when they apply. The city expects to serve 2,000 youth. To connect teens with job opportunities, the city is hosting a series of in-person and virtual job fairs. Employers who hire teens enrolled in the program may qualify for a $1,000 incentive for hiring a youth. They can hire up to 10 youths. More information is on the Youth Works initiative on the city's website. Jenny Brundeen, CPR News.
And you're listening to CPR News. Find more news from all over the state, 24 hours a day, on our website at cpr.org.
Support comes from History Colorado, presenting the history of a missing neighborhood. The exhibition, Where is Denver's Chinatown? Stories Remembered, Reclaimed, Reimagined, is on view. Tickets at historycoloradocenter.org.
Support comes from Colorado CASA, recruiting and supporting thousands of caring volunteers to ensure kids' voices are championed in court. Learn how to help at showupforkids.org.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Mary Louise Kelly in Washington.
And I'm Elsa Chang in Culver City, California. President Trump met with his counterpart from El Salvador today, President Nayib Bukele. It was a high-profile meeting because right now Bukele is imprisoning hundreds of immigrants deported from the U.S. And one of those people being held in El Salvador is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man deported by mistake. The Supreme Court has said that the White House has to facilitate his return to the U.S. NPR White House correspondent Danielle Kurtzleben joins us now with more. Hi, Danielle.
Hey, Elsa.
Okay, so the biggest question looming over this whole meeting was the fate of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's a Salvadoran immigrant who entered the U.S. illegally. And Danielle, he had been given legal protections by an immigration judge, but he remains deported to El Salvador anyway. So what did Bukele say about all of this?
Well, he said flat out no. There are no plans to send Abrego Garcia back to Maryland, which has been his home for around 15 years. Here's how Bukele put it.
How can I dismember the terrorists into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
Now, on that terrorist point, the Trump administration says that Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13. That's a gang the administration has declared a terrorist organization. But back in 2019, a judge ruled that there was insufficient evidence to deport him. But again, the Supreme Court has ruled days ago that Abrego Garcia is owed due process and that the administration has to facilitate his return to the U.S. But Bukele has cooperated very willingly with Trump in housing deportees, even ones that are not from El Salvador. Last month, the administration deported more than 200 people whom they claimed were dangerous gang members from Venezuela.
Okay, so we're hearing what Bukele is saying, but what did Trump and his team say about all this?
Well, when a CNN reporter tried to ask Trump about why he's not going along with the Supreme Court, he was dismissive.
How long do we have to answer this question from you? Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful with keeping criminals out of the country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You have no credibility.
He also called on a number of his officials who were also in the Oval at the time, like Attorney General Pam Bondi, also Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, asking them to back him up. And Miller argued that Abrego Garcia is a Salvadoran citizen and that the president has power over foreign affairs. But again, the Supreme Court has ruled that Abrego Garcia should get due process and that he should be returned.
I mean, we're not only talking about Abrego Garcia, Bukele has taken in all these deported people into a pretty notorious mega prison, right? Did anything come out of today's meeting about the future of that arrangement, using that prison?
Yes. Trump again brought up something he's been suggesting for months now, the possibility of deporting U.S. citizens to El Salvador, what he calls homegrown criminals. Here's a clip from a live feed that Bukele broadcast on social media, and this is Trump talking to Bukele as they entered the Oval Office.
I said, homegrown's are next. The homegrown's built. You gotta look at 5 more places. Yeah, that's great. All right.
And Trump also suggested there that Bukele build 5 more places, seeming to mean to build more prisons to house U.S. deportees. And that laughter you heard is people who were in the Oval, who included Trump's team. Now, later in the event, Trump again said he and his team are studying the laws about this possibility, saying he wants it to be violent people sent to El Salvador. But many legal scholars have said this would be blatantly unconstitutional to deport U.S. citizens, whether or not they're violent.
That is NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, staying with immigration, the Trump administration is urging immigrants across the country to self-deport.
President Trump has a clear message for those that are in our country illegally. Leave now. If you don't, we will find you, and we will deport you. You will never return.
That is Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem in an ad campaign that's been running on English and Spanish language media. It has led to conversations among immigrant families about whether to stay or go, and in many cases, what parents should do with their American-born children. NPR's Jasmine Garst spent time with some of those families.
It's nighttime in Durham, North Carolina. Sitting at the kitchen table, S sighs when she recalls the first few weeks of the Trump administration. S is her first initial. Like all of the immigrants NPR spoke with for this story, she is without legal status and asks that we not use her full name.
Me sentía muy angustiada. No sentía ganas de hacer nada.
I felt so anguished, she says. I didn't want to do anything in the house, just sleep and wake up to find out it was all a dream. Her husband, Jose, reaches across the table to hold her hand. In the living room, the kids' cartoons are blasting. They are among the around 10 million mixed status families in the U.S. Their kids are American citizens. And so for the past few months, while their children sleep, they've been staying up at night, debating whether they should all go back to El Salvador. In the meantime, Jose says a lot
Is this a
of
mayfly?
parents have been getting their
That's a
children
mosquito.
American passports so that the kids can come back to the U.S. He says, we decided to do the same. Tricia McLaughlin, Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Homeland Security, tells NPR that
Mayflies are small, aren't they?
self-deportation is a pillar
No.
of the
Huh?
Trump administration's
Kind of,
immigration
but
policy.
not really.
This is going to put them in a much better position if they leave now. They don't have to be arrested, they don't have to be detained, and they could potentially come back to the country legally the right way and come and live the American dream.
As of now, the administration has not said how or when they could return. But NPR has spoken to dozens of immigrant families who say they are discussing the possibility of self-deporting. Life in the U.S., they say, has just gotten too scary. On a sunny Saturday in Maryland, a woman named Mari is singing a lullaby to get her baby to sleep. She and her husband are from Guatemala. They have been here for over a decade. He's a roofer, she's a homemaker. The kids are American citizens. Mari says her 6-year-old daughter, Elle, has been having a hard time with the new reality. She recently started having panic attacks at school. She says Elle cried a lot. She's worried about the immigration crisis. Elle, who is sitting with us, tells me she wants to be a mathematician.